Hello, welcome to an Ailuna Chit Chat. Today I, Gemma, one of Ailuna's content creators, am going to be talking to the lovely Claire Vowell, also known as the Nurdle Nerd. So I'm hoping by the end of today's chat, you'll not only know what a nurdle is, but you'll also want to get a bit more nerdy on the subject yourself, and more importantly, help get nurdles out of the environment. Now, we didn't talk too much around the laws surrounding responsibility of nurdles, but I would urge you, if you want to learn more, to get onto Vidra's website. Links will be in the notes, and see what they're doing and how you can get involved to help change laws and help fight nurdles. So grab your cuppa, settle in and enjoy. Hi Claire, welcome to our chit chat. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us today. How are you?
I'm really good, and thank you so much for inviting me to have a chat with you. I'm really looking forward to
it. Good. So your other name, as we will now know you as, is the Nurdle Nerd, and I'm hoping by the end of this today that I'll also become a Nurdle Nerd. But yeah, can you explain what a nurdle is, how you got that nickname, and tell us a little bit about your experience and what's behind you?
I can, yes. So these are nurdles. If I turn it around, so nurdles can be any color. They are little teeny tiny plastic pellets, little plastic microplastics. They're man-made, and they are the starting point of all plastics, absolutely all plastics. So they're designed to be small, light, and easily melted. So you take them to the factory, they melt them down, and they get turned into whatever, anything. So plastic bags, bottles, these green ones which we find in Southampton, I don't know, drawer, something. I always think it's something for a classroom because they're really brightly coloured, so I sort of think that. And I first discovered nurdles 3 years ago. I've sort of been finding them on beach cleans and not really sure what they were, just sort of put them in with my beach clean stuff. And 3 years ago, I was on social media doing beach cleaning for mental health, and someone from Surfers Against Sewage put out a call out saying, I've got a beach in trouble. Is there anybody out there can come and help? So it was my not teaching day. So I went down, and this beach was a nature reserve. It was a saltwater reserve, and we got there. It was pouring with rain. I stood on the beach and cried because the whole beach was just covered in a layer of nurdles. And I sort of knelt down, and I was, how here? And literally, I was just so shocked. I had no idea how these nurdles had got on the beach, what they were doing there. So there were so many, we couldn't do anything. I literally just got a bag, filled it with a bag, took it home, started doing some research, showed it to my class because I'm a teacher. And the more I sort of investigated, the more I couldn't believe that these, first of all, were on a beach. Secondly, when I tried to Google it, it came out as hurdle or noodle or something like that. So it wasn't even a word that Google recognized. So I started investigating and finding out and telling my class along the way. I had a year 3 class at the time. And so I made, this was the first nurdle prototype. So I made this little nurdle toy. His arms are made with fishing wire, to start telling the story to my class about what nurdles were, how they got on the beach, how they can hurt wildlife. And I just started learning more and more and more. And one of the children said, you know lots about nurdles, Mrs. Vowell. And I said, I'm a bit of a nurdle nerd. And that was kind of where the name came from. And then another child said, you should write the story of nurdle, Mrs. Vowell, so other children can learn about it. And it was a little bit after that, I went to Southampton again, different. There was a different colour of nurdles on the beach that time. So it's obviously new spillages. Previous time they'd all been white. This time they were all green. And I was driving home, and literally the story of nurdle just wrote itself in my head. It just, and I got home, zoomed in into the house, grabbed some paper and just wrote the whole story down, because I wanted to tell the story of what nurdles were, how they got on the beach, and how we can help, how we can stop it. Because people demonize plastics and nurdles, and they're the enemy, they're the terrible thing, but actually they were designed to make our lives better. They make all our medicine in PPE, and my asthma inhaler is plastic. they weren't designed to be part of our consumerist single-use plastic obsession. So by us not looking after nurdles properly is how they're ending up on the beaches. It's not nurdles are this terrible, awful thing. So yeah, I just wanted to tell their story. So yeah.
Sorry, so is that the book behind you that I can see?
There's three books. One of them. So this one here was the story of Nurdle.
Mm-hmm.
And this story, it's based on information from, there's an amazing charity based in Scotland called Phaedra, who they do yearly nurdle hunts to tell people to try and gain information about nurdles, where nurdles are, and they've got lots of information on their website. So I've read that, ingested it all. So Nurdle is kind of their information from their website put in the first person voice of my little character. Oh, there he is, and saying what they are, how they get there, and how they need our help, because everybody thinks that they're mean and nasty, and they don't want to be mean and nasty. They want to do good things. So it's the story of Nurdle and how we can help him. And it sort of ends with a sort of plea for help, asking all the children in the world. It's illustrated with ocean plastics, and it's asking children to help. There's a character called Super Nurdle appears, and he wants the children to all become Super Nurdle helpers, and just really help him find all his little lost Nurdle friends on the beach and clear them all up, and stop any more ending up there. And then the other ones, because I was finding other stuff on the beach as well, like bio beads and cracker toys and hair clips and all that sort of things. So then I started bringing it into my class, and my class children were like, you need to write another book. So that was the second book, Nurdle and the Microplastics, tells about other microplastics, like little polystyrene pellets that come out of cheap surfboards and cheap bodyboards and things like that. So that was this one. And then I started looking into the big floating plastic gyres in the ocean, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch and things. And I heard that 50% of that was fishing waste, which is, again, starts life as a nurdle. So then Nurdle and the Ghost Net was written, which tells all about the problems caused by these big fishing nets, and the fact that they can't be recycled and fishermen get charged for them. So yeah, it's all lots of different stories. And basically Nurdles and his family are traveling around the world trying to help various different sea creatures and various different animals that get into trouble with plastics, while gently explaining to children what the problem is and how they can help. So yeah, so I am definitely Nurdle Nerd. I'm on a mission.
I love it. I love it though, how you've taken, you learn about them, but you've not just sat back and expected someone else to take action. You are, and this is what Ailuna is all about. It's about individuals taking action, and doing something, because one person's action can, just by you going to that beach, you might not have been able to clean up the nature reserve in Southampton, but the education and the roll-on effect of your other work, the impact that that's having will be gigantic. It's probably more than the impact you would have had just by cleaning up for one day's worth of nurdles. That the impact from one person is incredible, and just by you learning about something and you've taken it a step further, you've not sat back and you're doing something, which I find amazing. And it's great. We need to be taking that action in today's day and age with what's going on in the planet. But can we roll it back a little bit? So you said that the nurdles, they make their way to the shorelines and to the beaches and to the coast. How? Why are we finding beaches covered or just scattered pieces of nurdles on the beach? Like why, how?
That was a bit that blew my mind, and I was like, how are they getting here in such large numbers? If you're downstream from a plastics manufacturing plant, they're everywhere. And when I started investigating, there's a few different ways, and they're all legal loopholes. So nurdles are not classed as a hazardous material, so they are super light, and they're transported in really light bags, like grain sacks, but made of sort of like a really thin plastic. And if those bags get split as they're traveling along the motorway or the roads, you'll just get a trail of nurdles sort of falling out, a bit like Hansel and Gretel with the breadcrumb trail. And because they're super light, if it rains, they get washed down into the drains in the gutters, or if it's dry, they get blown onto the rivers. Then it goes into runoff rainwater into the streams. That's one way they end up in the sea. They can end up on people's shoes in the factories, get walked out, then get washed into drains. If they fall onto the floor in the factories, they're contaminated, they can't be used. So I've heard tales of them being washed down the drains, and then when you get the stormwater surges where the drains are all opened and water can go out to sea, that's how they get washed out to sea. So there's quite a few different ways nurdles end up in the environment. And because they're not classed as a hazardous material, there is no legal obligation for them to be cleaned up. If they were classed as a hazardous material, which is one of the things that Vidra is trying to hope to gain enough evidence from the beach cleaned to push forward for, then companies would have to, if there was a spillage, they would have to clean them up. But because they're not a hazardous material, there isn't that incentive to do.
Do you know, you may or may not, but do you know if they're classed as hazardous waste in other countries, or is it just the UK that they're not, or you know, in Europe?
It's a really good question. I know for certain they're not in America, because I've worked with Nurdle Patrol in America, and they're another group, very small group of very dedicated people trying to get nurdles classed as hazardous materials. So they're working really closely with Vidra. Yes, no, actually, I don't think they are, because I've spoken with people in South Africa as well. So no, they're just, I don't know, they're just this sort of little small innocuous thing that makes everything, but it just seems to just fall and slip under the radar. It's
which is crazy that it seems like such a niche thing that people are fighting for, like yourself and Vidra and a small group of people in the States. Like, it seems quite niche that people are or a small group of people fighting for something that creates so much waste and so much negative. And we know that nurdles, you know, they escape into the environment. So I did write down, let me see if I can get this right. So nurdles, the amount of nurdles that we need to create some of the plastic goods that we use every day, or sometimes. So I got this off of your Instagram and TikTok and stuff. So to make one plastic straw, it takes about 20 of those small nurdles. One plastic spoon that I did pick up on the beach yesterday, it takes about 80 nurdles. And then for a plastic toothbrush, 580 nurdles. And then for a standard size water bottle, 850 nurdles. So that's just kind of putting it into perspective, I guess, how many nurdles are made
which is used. Probably about that many. Yeah. And that was what blew my mind, is you literally weigh the item of your thing, weigh the weight of the nurdles, and that's your direct comparison. And that really put it into context for me. Is, you know, I'm really, really thirsty, so I'll buy this single-use water bottle, but it's fine, it's okay, I'll recycle it. So it goes to be recycled and it gets turned back into nurdles. So then you get this sort of, it's a never-ending cycle. So yes, I'm recycling it, but more nurdles may potentially be escaping, and also they can only be recycled 9 times before the plastic is unstable or up to 9 times before the plastic is unstable again. So I kind of thought, actually, this is just a loop that's just going to keep perpetuating. Even if we're recycling, we need to be saying no, and that's what Ailuna does. It says, you know, I'm going to challenge myself to bring my reusable water bottle, or to bring my coffee cup. And if I haven't got my coffee cup and my water bottle, I can't have a drink. It's that being quite, it's challenging yourself, isn't it? It's not easy to make these choices, but they're challenges that you can make if you want to. There's a quote that I love, because it can be quite a overwhelming thing, helping the environment and making changes. And some people go, well, what difference can I make? What difference can one person make? But there's a quote that says, individually we are one drop, together we're an ocean. And if every one person made one choice across the whole country, that's a staggering change. So if everybody then made 2 choices and 3 choices, it's a big snowball then, isn't it?
And it's just like I said, like the plastic bottles, a plastic bottle takes what, 850 nurdles to make one bottle. And apparently the average person in the UK at least uses, I think it's 150 bottles a year on average, plastic for water, for drinking water. But 150, I'm not going to do the maths now, but times 850 nurdles, just by taking your reusable bottle and using that each time when you're out and about, you've reduced an extraordinary amount of nurdles entering the environment. And there are a lot of businesses out there now, going to paper straws, compostable packaging. They're switching from 100% plastic based materials, and they're offering customers or their staff an alternative, which is great, because like we said, for every plastic straw, that's 20 nurdles that's created. If we're switching to another material, potentially that's better. It all depends on the alternative, but another conversation.
Exactly.
But what more can businesses do? Because there's a lot that businesses, whether it's a business offering customers something or offering their staff something, any idea what businesses can do to improve how their role in plastic reduction?
It's little things. I mean, I've been really thinking hard about this, because that's a really big question. And it's the one I keep coming back to is, do I need this? So you see businesses, if they're doing promotional things, they'll hand out balloons. Balloons is one of the big things I see. You do a promo and you'll have balloons and you'll have streamers and you'll have free badges and things like that. And you're like, actually, you don't need any of that. You can do your promotion without the need to hand out these free single-use plastics. So it's the, do I need it? I think is a very, and you see if you have a conference, they'll have the bottles of water on the tables and things like that. There's quite a lot of things to making things look nice that you can cut out straight away.
Can I add to that? Sorry.
But
also because I see it a lot of conferences or and stuff, people now offering reusable cups. So they'll, instead of so as a tactic to get people over to talk to them, they'll give away for freebies reusable cups quite often, or answer a few questions, we'll give you a reusable cup, which isn't, a majority of these cups are still made out of plastic, they're still made out of nurdles, and the average person now probably has one or two cups. You don't need several cups, you only really need one, maybe a backup. So it's just kind of taken that into consideration, like you might be offering a reusable or a reusable bag. I know it's not made out of plastic, but cotton, it's often, it's we don't need to be offering anything as a freebie. So yeah, I just wanted to
I totally agree. It is that do I, and it's very nice to get a free. Branding is another one. I try that about with my children in my class. I currently have my lunchbox. I've got one that's a Poppets one, I've got a superhero one, because as a parent I fell into the branding. If I buy the branded lunchbox, my child will eat their healthy lunch. Didn't work in the slightest. I've just ended up with a branded lunchbox I've got to use now. So branding suddenly massively limits the use of something, because a year later you might want that branded product, or it might be out of focus, or so branding is, yes, it's really lovely to get a message out there, but it massively limits the use of a product. If everything was unbranded, it's so much easier to reuse and repurpose and pass on. It gives things a shelf life if you brand it.
That's a really good point. As an employee within a business, and you want to do a little bit more, your business has already cut out single-use plastic cups, straws in the canteen. There are other ways. Perhaps businesses could encourage you to take your own tubs if they've got a canteen, put your lunch in there, stuff like that. But there are other ways that employees, any ideas of how employees may be able to become advocates in their business, or take it a step further to reduce waste within a business?
Really good. That's a really good question, actually. I suppose, team building and exercises and things like that, going out and doing plogging and celebrating successes of people minimizing plastic use within the business. It could be, I don't know, a way to open a meeting or something like that. Who's had a plastic success this term, this week, or this month, or something like that. I think, I don't know, for individuals, that's a really good question. I think packaging is still the most, one of the things I go, oh, really?
Yeah.
I ordered some recycled silver the other day, and I was like, yes, brilliant, I've ordered some recycled silver to make some jewelry with, and it all came wrapped in plastic. I was like, no.
Yeah.
So it's...
And definitely, I think that packaging and working with supply chains potentially, if people have the power within their company or within their business, or to work with the sustainability team, or ask supply chains to be doing better, and say we're reviewing who we buy our materials from, or how sustainable they are and stuff like that. So I think there are things that individual employees can do, even if, like you say, it's just having that conversation and maybe sharing successes, I think is a really good one, and because it motivates other people. If they see what good things people are doing, they may want to get more involved as well. So Claire, I am showing off some lovely earrings here that may have some nurdles inside. Can you tell us, because nurdles, you go and clean beaches a lot and clear a lot of the nurdles up, but what can you do with the nurdles once they are clean?
What do I do with them? So nurdles are, you can't just discern where they've come from. So nurdles and beach plastics are mixed plastics, so they can't be recycled. So there's lots of different projects of doing things with them, but nurdles, it's recommended on the Feedra website, once you've collected them, double bag them or put them in a glass jar and send them to landfill, because there's nothing you can do with them. So I decided to start making things with them. So my daughter found a picture online about a turtle who'd eaten lots of microplastics and got ill. So we started making turtle. That was the first thing we made, turtle, little turtle jewelry necklaces. Some are filled with nurdles, some are filled with microplastics, some are filled with fishing rope. And then I started making earrings and necklaces. And so every time I collected beach plastics, I was sort of throwing it into jewelry to try and get rid of it and to give it a different life, a new life. And we started illustrating the books with them. But I do more beach cleans than I do jewelry making. So it started taking over my house. It was under the bed, it was in the garage, it was in boxes in the lounge. So literally this half term, I've got a giant wardrobe that I've painted, put down the side of the house, and it's now filled. This whole wardrobe is filled with boxes of ocean plastic that I've been squirreling around the whole house. So no, it can't be recycled. So you've just got to be creative with it to do. So I've known people that have done fabulous pieces of artwork. I had a child in my class, he made the Blue Peter flag out of nurdles that he'd found on the beach and sent it away to Blue Peter, and he got a Blue Peter badge from it. So yeah, you've just got to be super creative. There's a man that's contacted me recently. He's trying to fill a giant chessboard with nurdles, showing how they incrementally accumulate. So when they break down, one nurdle will become two half nurdles will become 4 quarter nurdles. So each square of the chessboard shows the incremental increase when nurdles and plastics break down. So he contacted me, and I can't remember the 21st square of the chessboard. He needs something like 260,000 nurdles just to sort of fill this chessboard square.
Wow.
So he's out to nurdle hunters across Europe to try and fill these chess squares, because it's this massive installation where he's trying to show.
Is that in the UK? Say?
No, it's not. I can't think where he's based. It's called Checkmate. If you want to check him out, he's on social media.
Yeah,
so yeah,
brilliant. Brilliant.
He's another environmental artist doing things.
Yeah, yeah, and it raises so much awareness. Like when I wear my earrings now, you know, I get comments, oh, I love your earrings, and it starts that conversation. I can say, well, actually, you know, these plastic bits inside are nurdles found on the beach that otherwise would have caused, you know, X amount of impact if left there, could end up inside of the belly of some animal and all the rest of it. So it's that conversation starter, which is specifically why I like them. So I did want to share my nurdle hunting experience. So in preparation for this talk, but also obviously because I've spoken to you before about nurdles, I wanted to go out and do my own hunt and see how easy or difficult or if there were any on the beach near me. So I did take my 18-month-old and a hyperactive dog, and I found that was made life very difficult to find nurdles. So I only found, I don't know if you can see, I only found 3 inside my glass jar. To be honest, I kind of expected to clearly see more on the beach. You know, I thought they'd be a little bit more obvious, or there'd be more of them. And with my 2 hyperactive little ones, I'd be able to still stash some in a glass.
You'll find them.
But I found that I needed to spend more time and eyes focused on the ground rather than focused on them to actually find them, which I think is either a good thing that there aren't so many clearly there, or they're all just hidden amongst the seaweed and the debris on the beach. So can you talk a little bit about what people want to do if they want to go nurdle hunting or want to go clear the beaches? How can they do it?
Okay, so you have like a little kit that you need. So you need a little container. So any container reused, like a little jam jar or something like that is perfect. Either gloves or have some sort of antibac, because nurdles can absorb toxins when they're in the sea. So you definitely need to make sure your hands are clean. And then you've got a few places to look. So along the strand line where you've got the seaweed, if you turn over the seaweed, if it's a nurdle beach, you'll find nurdles in the seaweed. If you've got a river that meets the sea, where the river comes down and the sea sort of like swirls around, you get little accumulations along the banks of the river where the river meets the sea. Quite often towards the top of the beach, near a car park, because if there's a high wind, the nurdles get swept and caught in the shrubbery, there's sort of like the little plants and things at the top. So quite a lot of beaches, you'll find them just at the edge of the car park in the high tide line. Sometimes right at the back of the beach if there's been a storm surge or a spring tide or something like that. Yeah, they're my top go-tos. If I go to a beach, some beaches you're like, oh, there's no nurdles, brilliant, and then you'll go to the strand line and you'll find 1 or 2 and you're like, oh, okay. And then if you sort of head up the beach and try and look where the wind's blowing or where the tide sort of like meets right at the top, especially if there's a river coming in, that's probably where you'll find an accumulation. And I've had a few beaches like St Michael's Mount in Cornwall. My initial assessment was, oh, there's no nurdles, brilliant. And then I found a massive accumulation where the river came in right by the car park. So
because I only found
hunting
in a very quick or a short amount of time, I just found these 3, but finding those there will be more. So I need to return. Child and dog free.
Yes. And once you start finding it, then once you get your eye in, you then can't stop seeing them. Once your eye's in and you know where you're looking, then they just keep coming.
It's like that with litter. I know it's a lot bigger, but obviously because I do a lot of litter picking, and I got a bag full of litter yesterday because that's easier just to quickly stash in a bag. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. So yeah, I guess that's the case.
You always have to walk along with your eyes closed and go, no.
Yeah.
I've always got some sort of bag, because I've got a dog, I've always got like the poo bags and things. So I always have a poo bag with whatever, or microplastics or something.
Yeah. And has it made your trip to the beach? Can you ever go to the beach now and just relax and have a nice day out, or are you there whilst your family is having a nice time, you're there at the corner of the beach?
always allowed, like, they'll sort of like, right, go on, mum, you can go and have your half an hour. I can't leave a beach without having half an hour. But actually, this mindful thing, because just wandering along, sort of just picking up little tiny things, it's really mindful. You just totally zone out everything else. You've got the sea in the background. So for me, it's the ultimate mindfulness. Just half an hour nurdle hunting or plastic collecting.
Yeah,
That's my mental health hit.
nice.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So to wrap it up, there are a bunch of actions on our app on Ailuna to help people reduce plastic in the first place, so there's less need to go clearing nurdles off the beaches. So we've already mentioned the cups and the bottle actions, but we do have, you said about going plogging, we do have a action to get people started on a plogging journey, but also litter picking as well. There's a one-off lunchtime litter pick and a week-long litter pick action on there, so just to get people started, you know, getting them into a little bit of a habit, even if, because picking up litter in, you know, in a town or by a river, or you don't have to live by a beach to have an impact of, you know, litter in the environment. So there's also less obvious ones, sustainable shaving and natural dental care to avoid plastic or single-use plastic items as well in the bathroom. There's lots of actions. The majority of our actions on the app are waste related, which all plays a role of this. But I did want to ask, are there any actions or dares that you would like to dare your family or friends to take part in? It doesn't have to be something on the app already, but something, is there something you would ask or like to see your friends improving in their lifestyles, I guess?
I think the one, and I think for me it's the hardest one as well, it's those little consumer things that you buy to make yourself pick me up things to make you feel good. So if you're in like a shop or a supermarket, or you know, the big household shops and things like that, they have all the little sort of things that are under a fiver that you think, oh, I'll buy that and I'll put it on my desk next to my computer and it will make me feel good. And you know, it's like Halloween and Christmas, and I'll buy that extra sparkly Christmas decoration. And then it's that, do I really need it? Is it gonna, it'll give me a 5-minute hit that, yeah, I've got this sparkly Christmas decoration or something, but do I really need it? So it's that I'm trying to challenge myself, and that's what I would set is to walk away, and then if you really think I need it, then go back another time and get it. That's the really hard thing, is the tempting, and you know, the magazines are filled. If you buy this, then you'll feel better about yourself, you'll feel happier, and they're the tricky ones to say no.
I'm doing a challenge for the whole of this year to buy nothing new. So that's a good one. And we do have a month-long challenge on the app if you want to take that on, to buy nothing new.
That's a good one.
But I do agree, it's difficult. It is difficult. I mean, I've definitely bought a few things this year, but it's asking yourself, if you need it, can you get it elsewhere? You know, sparkly Christmas decorations or something similar, you can generally find secondhand as well. People, you know, it's trying to find something that's already in circulation, I guess, rather than having to buy something new. But it's temptation, and that's going into these shops, that's what they're there to do, isn't it? Tempt you into buying. And I think
for some people it's rebranding as well, because some people, this secondhand has a negative association for some people. They're like, oh, I don't want something that's secondhand. So actually I love the word pre-loved, that it's a pre-loved item, I'm giving it a new home. So pre-loved clothing. And also, you know, I think 90% of my house is pre-loved, and my clothing and things, because it's just on its new journey and a new way of loving it. So I'm trying to phase out the word secondhand.
No, it's a really good point. We need to get rid of the stigma around secondhand, I think.
Yes.
And love
it's
everything.
It's a funny one because I don't get it.
Yes, I know. Okay, so just for our users, if they want to find your books or your jewelry, how can they go about gifting these as lovely Christmas presents?
So the books, if you any bookshop now, they can order it in. So you can go to any bookshop and ask for the Nurdle books, and they can order them in. The jewelry, I've got a website called Nurdle Nerd, so nurdlenerd.co.uk. I don't have an Etsy shop at the moment because I lost it to a hacker because I was too nice over the summer. But yes, if you contact me through Nurdle Nerd or through my social media, then I can get it out to you.
Fab. And how can people find you on social media? Is it Nurdle Nerd?
I've got Nurdle Nerd, and my jewelry is on Seaborn Design. So it's
okay, brilliant. What social media channels are you on?
Instagram and Facebook, but I'm mostly on Instagram. That's where you'll find me most often. Yeah.
Okay, cool. We will link to it in the notes as well. But brilliant. Thank you very much for your time. And I definitely feel more nerdy now. And I'm definitely going to go and try and fill this jar a little bit more impressively. And I will let you know how I get on.
Keep it on your windowsill and just add to it.
yes, that's the plan. And then I don't know, I might have to make my own jewelry and give us gifts.
That would be brilliant.
Yeah. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. It's been lovely chatting to you.
Thank you.